elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us, man, there is nothing, we are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. Every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you your mates as we discuss the situations.
A lovely evening to you. Welcome to the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Of course, I should applaud the resilience of every Nigerian worker at this time as we celebrate Workers' Day. Of course, we have to acknowledge all the hard work that Nigerian workers have been doing in the face of all of the inconveniences with the fuel scarcity, the conversations around wage award, just asking for better treatment regardless of the sector that you're in, whether private or public, getting through all of these challenges, trying to surmount all of these multiple challenges and still being able to deliver your best. I once again must applaud every single Nigerian worker as we celebrate and commemorate Workers' Day today. I really hope that at the end of the day we have enough profit or benefit to act as some sort of testament to all of the great, amazing work that we do as those who are part of the workforce in the country. My name is BABALOLA. You are listening to the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. The Situation Room airs Mondays through to Fridays from 4 p.m. all the way to 5:30 p.m. where we have interesting conversations from socio-political, socio-economic issues, or just issues that generally border about the safety, the wellness, and the development of our great nation, Nigeria. Now, like I said, a lot of things have been playing out in the country, from our economic issues to the unrest that has been in the country, conversations around government policies and the influences and ripple effects that it's having on the quality of life of individuals, and then security as well has been on the front burner. And of course, as we are talking through all of the issues of fuel scarcity and the shocks that it has sent through pretty much our day-to-day life as citizens of the country, recent events have shown that there's more happening in the country outside the issue of the fuel scarcity. And of course, this has something to do with the state of security in the country. Hence the reason why we're going to be discussing today on the Situation Room Nigeria's prison infrastructure. Of course, this is born out of the recent jailbreak that happened in Niger State, Suleja, if we're being more precise. And so we decided to make this a conversation on radio and discuss the Nigerian prison infrastructure, the things that are wrong and how we can correct these wrongs. I do have a professional that will be joining me virtually today, but let's look at the history of jailbreaks, or the history of our prison infrastructure in the country, so that we can relate to it as we begin to ask questions of our guests moving forward. My name is BABALOLA. We're streaming the program live on our Facebook platform, our YouTube platform as well, facebook.com/mainland 98.3 FM. YouTube is at mainland 98.3 FM. So please go to Facebook and join us virtually. There's also Radio Garden as well. For those of you who don't have access to your traditional radio, you can check Radio Garden at mainland 98.3 FM. So let's have a conversation very briefly about what is going on in our prison system. We do know that Nigeria has faced a surge in prison breaks in recent years, and these prison breaks have revealed deep-seated flaws within the country's correctional facilities. The jailbreaks, which have occurred across the country, point to a broader security crisis that poses serious threats to Nigeria's justice system and our public safety. Now, once designed to confine and rehabilitate offenders, the correctional facilities have become increasingly vulnerable a daring escape attempt, turning them into revolving doors for growing numbers of criminals. Now, in the country, more than 7,000 people have escaped from several prisons since 2010, with 20 jailbreaks taking place in the past 7 years. And the latest occurrence is the spate of jailbreaks that have been unraveling in the country, which is the escape of the 119 inmates of the Medium Security Custodial Center, Suleja, in Niger State, following hours of heavy downpour which destroyed parts of the facility. Now, although 13 of these fleeing inmates have been rearrested, and this is according to the Interior Minister Tunji Ojo, there are plans for relocation for the rest of the inmates. And joining us this evening as we analyze the physical security systems in our prison and also all of the corrections that we have to make if we're to have a proper prison structure in the country is, of course, our guest for today, Alex Okonkwo. He is indeed a security expert. He's also a security analyst and political commentator. Good evening to you, Alex Okonkwo. It's a pleasure to have you on radio.
Good evening, Sage. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I thank all our listeners for finding time. And I join you in wishing the workers a happy Workers' Day, and even those who are not working as well, for those who are looking for work. Yes.
Being in Nigeria is a job, Alex, so yeah, it still counts.
Yes. It's not an easy one at all, but we will get there. We will get there. I'm convinced.
Yes, thank you so very much. So even if you don't have a job, just being a citizen of the country is work in itself. So happy Workers' Day to you, all right? So Alex, I tried my best to lay some sort of foundation for the conversation so people can understand the history of what our prison structure looks like, the amount of jailbreaks that have been recorded. We're still going to talk about the things that have led up to this unfortunate incident within our prison system, amongst other things. But I want to hear your expert opinion. All I'm doing basically is reading out data, but I want to hear from an expert an overview of Nigeria's current prison system. What is the reality of our prison system at this time, so we can highlight the problem and then start to prefer solution moving forward in the conversation?
Okay, so let us, I think we can start from the beginning. The first thing is that we don't have we don't have a prison system that we can all applaud and be fair of. Let me say this immediately. You judge a country by how it treats its immigrants, not its citizens, its immigrants. The same thing you do when you judge a judicial system. It's how we treat those of us that are condemned for offenses committed against the state. You see the parallel I'm posing here.
Of course.
How do we treat those people we still want to keep within the community but have just committed an offense? And offenses go from stealing a mobile phone to being a terrorist. You see the difference? And you cannot say that all of them are the same kind of criminals, because the person that stole a mobile phone in Oshodi bus stop cannot be treated as the terrorist who attacked a school in Kaduna. They are very different people. They both go to jail, but they are very different kind of category of criminals, and they should be treated differently. Now, we are not able to do that because we don't have a very good infrastructure of our prison system all around the country. It's not only in Suleja, everywhere. In Kuje, you know about the Kuje case of last year, 2 years ago, sorry. Yes, remember, you and I think we had a program on that as well. Yes, exactly. So things have not really changed since then. There's a lot of political will to change things. I must tell you, we don't have the finances. Doesn't mean we can't get them, but we don't have them. I must tell you, we have a 2019 Correctional Service Act, but it's not being implemented, maybe because of lack of manpower, maybe because of lack of finance. We will come into that. But to pose the condition here, most of our jails that we have at present were constructed by the British colonial masters. They were there to treat people who were anti-slave trade manifestors. They were there for problems that had to do with merchandise. It was mostly offenses against the state and against trade that led people to go to jail. Those jails were constructed far away from the city. It's just that with development over the last 70, 80 years, the cities have entered where the jails are. You get what I'm saying? The jails initially were constructed far from the cities, but we've developed. We've grown in population, so people have built houses, and now the jails are mostly in the city, which is very wrong already. You cannot have a jail nearby a city. It means people are passing by, people are communicating, and in this world of communication, the prisoners sometimes have more information than you do. So we have a structure that is 100 years old. I mean, I'm just giving you a date so that you can work with that. It's 100 years old. And you can imagine what happened in Sulawesi was just a heavy rain downpour the night before, and all the walls were already cracking. So we don't have the infrastructure of the 21st century. We don't have it anywhere. In fact, one of our best prisons would probably be Kirikiri, because it's been modernized from time to time, and it's a very famous prison, so to say. And that's where we keep our VIPs, so to say. But most of the other prisons around the country are already 50 years or 60 years old, minimum. So they are not suited for what we have now. I'm not even talking of the overcrowded. I'm talking of the infrastructure itself, the building itself. The security is poor. They don't have a camera that are functional. It's not isolated. There are several things that we will go into later. But the state of art of our prison system is deplorable as we speak.
Alex, when we started this conversation, you said something about the connection between our justice system and our prison system, and we can basically judge the strength of our judicial system based on how we treat those that have been condemned to go and serve punishment for their crime. So let us establish that nexus between our justice delivery system and our prison system. That is how these inmates get there in the first place. I mean, before they even become inmates, it's based on the process that constitutes our judicial system that decides whether or not they would even be sent to prison. Alex, we have, so to speak, innocent people in prison. Let's even forget about those who are considered innocent. We have people who are still awaiting trial, who have been in prison for 3 years, and they're still awaiting trial. There's a conversation of overcrowding, and then many, should I say, legal luminaries have said it's inappropriate, it's even illegal to keep anybody for years in prison without getting a proper conviction. So talk to us about how some of the laxity, some of the inadequacies in our judicial system have in a way led to the paucity of service that we see within our prison infrastructure.
Okay, yes, very, very good question to round it up on that particular angle. You remember we said there are all kinds of criminals, from terrorists to those who steal the mobile phones. We don't yet know how to handle these cases. There are not enough magistrates, not enough courts, not enough ad hoc courts. Do you know that even electoral offenders go to the same jail as well? I mean, no matter how serious the offense is, an electoral offense cannot be compared to terrorist offense. It's not the same thing. It's not the same level. The man who killed a woman in terms of domestic violence cannot be compared to the guy who stole a mobile phone on a bus in Oshodi. It cannot be. You cannot compare the two. But because of our justice, our lacking in justice system, it has now been transferred to the prison system. Now, what that causes is this: we melange. Well, I mean, I'm going to say that in French. We mix up the criminals. So instead of correcting the guy who stole the mobile phone, you now put him beside the terrorist, and he actually becomes a worse person instead of becoming a better person. So we are not gaining. The prison system is supposed to rehabilitate criminals, not make them worse. So what we are doing is actually the opposite. People are going into jails and coming out stronger. The people that were convicted as terrorists are being the ones teaching others how to become tougher, how to survive, how to go into all kinds of sacrifices, because a lot of these people they are doing these things spiritually as well. It's not just them. So we're doing something that is dangerous and is very explosive. People are coming out from the prison after even serving their terms, and they are worse than when they got in there. That's on the side of the condemned criminals. You said it rightly. Nigeria has a very bad reputation because we have almost 60% of the people in jail currently have not been judged. That is a terrible statistic. As in we don't even know if they are guilty. Are you getting my point? So it's even a terrible point of starting the discussion, because we're already talking of people who are in prison, but maybe they shouldn't even be there. So how are you going to tell this person to be part of the society whenever he comes out? The anger he has against the society is enough for him to commit even a crime when he comes out. So we are going in very dangerous cycles, because we have to, at one point, I'm not saying it's this government, whoever wants to rule this country has to decide to take insecurity globally as an issue, as an emergency issue, and get the necessary funds to take care of, from the police, where the police now incriminate, catch somebody and present the person in front of the justice system that does their proper work, and the correctional system that rehabilitates the criminals. Because eventually, what we want to do is to rehabilitate the criminals. Nobody, unless you're condemned to death, unless you're on the death row, everybody is a citizen of the country, and that's right.
Oh, thank you very much, Alex. Let's talk about funding, because from the answer you provided earlier, you have, of course, indicated that funding is indeed a problem. In 2023, about 22 billion was proposed, and you know how the budget is, that the money is proposed or budgeted does not necessarily mean that it would be released. That's just, unfortunately, that's our reality in the country. But then the Guardian newspaper some months ago put out a report that the dogs that guard or operate within the prison system get more feeding allowance than even the inmates. And we read that report in The Guardian. I should have sent you that link. We read that report and we're trying to understand, because this is against the backdrop of allegations of abuse within the prison system, which allows for some sort of corruption, because you have to have a family member that is willing to pay extra money for you to get the good stuff in prison. So let's talk about funding for the prison system, feeding the inmates, not just the inmates, even the wardens, those who guard the prison, because a warden who is not even properly taken care of, who doesn't have his salary, is more susceptible to corruption. So let's talk about how funding, or in this case inadequate funding in our prison system, has also in a way exacerbated all of the problems that we are highlighting right now.
Okay, to even start that, let me even go along with what you said. Some of the prison wardens are actually happy when they hear that a high-profile criminal or a high-profile political person is going to jail. They are all wishing that they come to their own jail. Because that means a lot of money, a lot of benefits, a lot of, imagine a former governor, let's just play a game. A former governor is being arrested and is taken to your jail. That guy is not going to live like other prisoners. First, he will be in the VIP section. That's the first thing. He doesn't stay in the common section. He's in the VIP section. He doesn't eat the prison food, and he gets food brought to him from outside. That VIP prisoner, so to say, is very, very available to give a lot of funds to the wardens that take care of him, so that he gets a first-class service even while he's in jail. It is very common. It has happened before. We've had former governors go to jail, former ministers go to jail, not just this time around, even 20 years ago. So it's nothing new. The corruption in Nigeria at the warden level comes from poverty. At the end of the day, these guys are underpaid, undertrained, understaffed. That is the dilemma of Nigeria. That's why I was saying earlier that whoever wants to rule this country has to decide to put the necessary funds. Now, to actually get into fact, last year our budget for the prison service was close to 90 billion. I'm talking of the whole prison service, not just feeding now. What you were talking about was just for feeding.
Feeding, yes.
Which is about 20, I think about 20, I'm not sure now.
Yeah, 22 billion,
yes, annually. That sounds quite like a lot. But you see, in comparison, countries that have less prisoners spend far more. And I would use a country like Egypt that spends over $100 million on their prison service. Egypt, half of our population, they're about 100 million, the whole of Egypt, and they spend about $100 million on their prison service. South Africa spends much more. They spend about 160 billion on their own prison service. So we are nowhere near that. Even though it sounds exorbitant, we are nowhere near that. Obviously, because we have more prisoners in our jails, if you not to do the division, you will see that our prisoners are also underfed, they are not well taken care of and all that. If you are not a VIP prisoner, so to say, you will not get the necessary services you should get. So we don't have a good reputation in that. But where do we put the blame, Sage? Where do we put the blame? Do we blame the government that doesn't have the resources? Do we blame the petty corruption? Do we blame the corruption amongst the executives that maybe when they get the funds, kind of take a bit of them out? Where do you put your cursor of blame? Where do you actually start to blame? The thing is, we need funds. But even the listeners listening to us now will be saying, should we be spending that much money on prisoners when even normal Nigerians are not doing well? Sorry, not normal Nigerians. I mean, everybody is a normal Nigerian. I mean, Nigerians out of jail. Yes, sure. Nigerians out of jail are suffering. So we put ourselves in a dilemma. It is very difficult for you and I to actually go around and say we should actually put more money and spend more money when people outside are waiting for palliatives. You see where the trouble is. I mean, I'm troubled. Even though I know we're not doing the right thing, I'm troubled, to say it frankly. So I think we're not doing well enough. I think we should do a bit better, but we cannot even do better than the society itself. There's something wrong fundamentally. Look at the electrical bills that people are going to have. Can you imagine the prison having 24 hours electricity when somebody who is working does not have it? Is there something wrong? Right. There's something wrong fundamentally. So we should get our we should get our books right. We should actually have a voluntary and intensive will to actually make things better, even for the common man, and it will just be a projection of what we should do in the prison. Now, I must tell you, the prisoners in Nigeria are fed with less than 800 naira a day. 800 naira a day. I'm not even sure there's any bread that costs 800 naira a day. I'm not sure.
It is
I have to check. So everybody listening should know that they are well underfed, and that is one of the reasons why they come out worse than when they entered, which is still the objective we should have. Whatever you are doing, the prisoners are supposed to come out rehabilitated, reinserted into the society, not worse than when they came in. So we're not doing well. I agree with you.
I mean, Alex, I'm very grateful that you highlighted that point, because it's a correctional facility. I watched a documentary on, prisoners who come out from prisons in Western countries. Some of them come out with degrees. We see some who come out with a law degree and they go on ahead to practice. Some go on ahead to become healthcare professionals, and all of these things they learned whilst they were in prison. Some of them even go on there and become athletes, because there's training ground for sport within the prison system. But like you said, a prisoner who stole a phone at Oshodi being mixed with the terrorist, he comes out and he has learned the way of the terrorist, and he's looking for where to unleash all of that anger, which is such a disappointing thing. So what is so correctional about the place that you put this individual is the question to ask here. But if you're just joining us, this is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It's 4:21 p.m. We're having a conversation this evening about Nigeria's prison infrastructure. This was born out of the conversation of the recent jailbreak in Suleja, Niger State, where 119 inmates escaped, all because a rain it's so disappointing to say, rainfall caused a lapse in the infrastructure, and we had inmates actually escape. Although some have been recovered, according to Tunji, the Interior Minister, and there are plans to relocate the rest of the inmates. But this particular incident has to be discussed. Mind you, the Suleja prison was meant to house only 250 inmates, but a head count shows that 499 inmates were within that prison premises. Look at the disparity. So you can understand the overcrowding, the inhumane treatment that were met out on these individuals in the first place. Alex Okonkwo, of course, is with us in the studio virtually. He is a security analyst and a political commentator. And once again, we're talking about Nigeria's prison infrastructure. We're streaming the program live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can join us live or listen to us via Radio Garden. Just search Mainland 98.3 FM. You can in fact start to drop your submission via the live chat option on our Facebook platform. So let's get back into conversations. Alex, I want you to paint us a picture of what physical and non-physical infrastructures are supposed to be made available within a prison system. Like I said, I had to take a break when I was talking about the fact that rain was able to break down a prison. We have shops that can withstand the rain, shops where people sell things that can withstand rain, and then we have a prison structure that's supposed to hold in criminals is breaking because of rainfall. So paint us a picture for a prison. What is the physical infrastructure that's supposed to be in place, the fences, the kind of materials that should be used, and the non-physical infrastructures that should be made available?
Okay, the first thing we must correct here is that the Suleja prison was built in 1914. That is already, we're talking of over a century ago.
Right.
So there is no way it wouldn't have fallen down, whether it was the rain or the window or some kind of spiritual cause. We were going to use the Suleja prison. This is the first time in a long time that the prisoners walked out of the prison compound themselves, because the walls were falling down. In Kuje prison there was an attack.
Yes.
So bandit came to release their friends, so to say. And we've had that in Edo, we had that in one of the prisons. Yes, exactly. Even during the end party, remember. So people came to release. So this often what we have in Nigeria is attacks on the prison parameters. This one was like the wall itself caved in, and in fact we had prison wardens running away for safety, people running away for safety. So it is a very particular situation where you cannot do anything. You cannot really do much. What I'm trying to say here is that the prison at Suleja itself was not. It's not was not in a good state. Maybe what has happened will permit the federal government to now repair that prison, actually build another one, because the Suleja prison was built like I said, 1914. It was distant from the community. But the community has grown and has englobed the prison. The prison is not part of the community. So in real sense, we come back to your question. Prison should be isolated from the society. You should be far away, because it's in that far away that you isolate it, and it's in that far away that you create what we call it, like a buffer zone. I will not call the country. There's a country in Africa that was known in the 1970s where the prison had crocodiles all around it. A particular head of state, in one of the East African countries, created a prison in it was a badly reputed prison for political opponents. But he kept them there, and all around it was water, and there were crocodiles all around it. So even by the time you escape, there's a good chance you will end up as dinner or one of the animals.
Right.
So it's just to give you an idea. I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I'm just telling you, prisons should first be isolated from the rest of the society. It gives the prison wardens and the security system enough time to be in place. The second thing is that we are talking of walls that should be, very structured, cast walls and high, impermeable walls, not the ones we built in 1914 by old bricks. This layer was built by old bricks. These bricks that you see them in some northern states, we use them for markets and all that. You can't have a prison with that. It's not going to work. You and I can punch it and it will open. So concrete walls are being used now, mechanized concrete walls with metal frames in between are being used in modern world. I don't know if we can afford it, honestly. I must tell you, I don't know if we can afford it, because prisons are very expensive. To the point that the United States of America, more than half of their prisons are privatized. As awkward as it sounds, that means companies are investing and are being paid by the state to run the prison service. I hope you heard me well. It means like we do the eco electrical. It means we have eco prison, and just give you an example. Imagine having the society that runs the company that runs the prison service. That's how expensive it has become. Because at the end of the day, it is part of the judicial system. You must have good prisons to have good justice. You must have good justice to have good police system. The three of them go together. If any of the three does not function, all of the three they will not function well. So that is the second thing, isolation. And then we must have areas where we keep people under detention. We call them under detention, and people who are serving their time. It's not the same thing. Under detention means you're like almost like a house arrest. You were investigating your case. They suspect that you run away, so they can't use you, but you're under detention. You're not actually a prisoner. And you can't stay there for long. There must be a time frame, maybe 60 days, maybe 90 days. There must be a time frame. Then there are real criminals who have been convicted, who can go and serve jail times. So we're talking of a huge space where these people can become. Then we're going to go into violence in prison. If you live Bobrisky escaped it, so to say. If you have 1,000 men in a prison, a male prison, the typical male prison in Nigeria, anywhere in Adamawa, and these men are not having any social contact whatsoever for 5 years. My sister, by the time we release him after 5 years, I don't even know if we are doing good to the society for him to come out of. Are you guys getting me? I'm good. I don't want to say everything on the radio here, sure. But the thing is much more involved in prison service than just putting somebody in jail. We have to be sure if the person we are bringing out psychologically is ready to mingle with people again. Because after 5 years of being in just the prison circles, if you are telling him to dress up and go and look for a job, maybe in a school, maybe in something, do we have that data? So again, the third part is data collection and follow-up, psychological follow-up. So you see, the prison service is isolation, justice system within the prison I'm talking about now.
Yes.
The psychological treatment of the people. Then we talk of the proper security. So the use of drones, the use of camera, the use of in Nigeria they do have NIN. All the prisoners have been biometrics. They have their biometrics. That is why it's actually easier for us to pursue those escapees, even though we haven't found them physically. We know them because once you have been in prison, you have your biometrics taken. That is one good thing we've done. But in the physical aspect, we are still on the path to go and pursue them. In the civil defense that is doing it, and a bit of the police, it's still not enough. We are on the path. So we have thousands of escapees all over the country. Some of them have changed states. Maybe they were in prison in Adamawa, but are now in Sokoto. Maybe they were in prison in Edo, they are now in Katsina. Some have even crossed left the country and gone to the Republic. So there is a lot of inefficiency in that sense. Then I will tell you the last thing I will say here on that particular issue is that our prison wardens are undertrained. Some of them were, put into the prison service several years ago, several decades ago. We are already at the epoch of AI. So we can't be having prison wardens who are still using to fingerprints of the prisoner, where have you? No, we can't be doing that. The prisoners already have mobile phones, so they're already communicating far more than the warden who does not know what a computer is. Are you getting what I'm saying? Because if a Yahoo boy is arrested and he goes to prison, he becomes the IT manager of that prison service. He knows everything more than the people guarding him. So the state cannot be behind the people they want to punish or they want to condemn. There's something wrong in prisoner being more aware of the society than the person guarding him. It can't work. We are already failing even without starting. So there's a lot of reform to be done. It's all in the act. To be honest, it's all in the 2019 act. The thing is, when are we going to start implementing it? I said 2019, so it was 5 years ago. When are we going to implement it? I think that's the question we should be asking ourselves, because we have some of these things in the 2019 act, correctional act. But when are we going to start implementing it? When are we going to actually finance it? Because it's about financing and training and all that. And then prisons should be constructed. Unfortunately, as unfortunate as it sounds, we should construct more prisons, because we're having more prisoners. Unfortunately, we're having more prisoners, but we have to put them somewhere. The 괶ᴜ you talked about doesn't actually have 400 prisoners. It had 700. So that's more than double what it should contain. A prison that you can hit the wall and knock it down and actually cross over. And I don't know if they had up to 50 wardens. So they are understaffed, under-equipped, under any of the unders you can put, under resourced and everything. So the prison service will only, the first thing and the key thing here is that it must be isolated. It cannot be within the perimeters of the town. It should be outside, isolated. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for example, it should be somewhere there. So before you even escape, it's almost like you're in a military barrack. But by the time you escape the wall of the prison, you still have to escape from the compound. You see what I'm saying? So it's two different things.
Alex, let's talk about handling internal and external aggression. Like you mentioned, all of the other notable jailbreaks that we saw, there had to be some sort of external force. People had to raid the prison, break down the doors. There was a shootout. But this one is a peculiar case, because the walls came down and they practically just walked out. So I'm pretty certain that handling this situation takes different protocols. So is there like a specific protocol for handling external aggression and internal aggression? We know that sometimes violence within the prison sort of open the doors for the possibility of an escape, because if there's a riot within the prison, we see inmates who have used that opportunity to escape the prison because of internal aggression. So help us understand if the difference in the protocols that it takes when there is external attack or when aggression within the system opens the door for these inmates to escape.
Okay, there are different levels of intervention, even within the prison, even within the correctional service itself.
Right.
So when there are riots within, like what you mentioned now, riots within, maybe it's caused by a commotion in the eating area or in the sports area or whatever, the prison service already has a system where it goes to a system, a level of danger, and they already know how to separate, isolate the prisoners. They already have isolation centers within the prison I'm talking about, not outside. Within the prison, where they can isolate those dangerous elements about that. They have that. And they can call on external intervention, so to say, the civil defense about that can intervene on the call of the Director General, Constant Controller General of the prison. So all these things exist within the prison service. Of course, there's corruption. You and I know that. So of course, internally, sometimes these prisoners get information. So they know when it's weekend, when they're changing guards. I'm just giving you an example of when external attack happens. They know when the military are not doing their parades, which they do, because we have all these men parading, like the Kuje prison has military parade outside it. But they know when those things are not working. They also know when it's like a prayer moment. Some of these things happen a lot in the north. So there are prayer, leading prayer period. All these things are information that are being shared. I'm talking of internal towards external now. So, but we do have processes that go against this kind of thing. It's just that the human corruption factor, the Nigerian factor, the prison, I don't know what the salary is, but it cannot be more than 70,000. Imagine a kingpin giving you 250,000 naira cash that you should just allow people to come and raid. People are tempted by that. People are tempted. We just have to be human here. So our problem is that we are our own enemy. While the processes are there, the failures are mostly human. Beyond the fact that the infrastructure is poor. Look, by the way, let me correct one impression. A in Africa, it is Rwanda and Kenya that have the worst prisons. I mean, I just want us to clarify that we are not the worst students, so to say. But what is hampering security within the prison sector is corruption, which still is the problem we have in every sector. I mean, you and I know that. It's the same corruption that is making insecurity, we are not fighting insecurity. It's the same corruption that is not making us get the best of our politicians. So why would you not want that corruption to enter the prison service? Of course, it has gotten into that level. So it's not just that the processes are not there. It is that the humans behind it are corrupt. Now, for the external aspect of it, it was a shame when the Tğᴇ, I mean, we covered it together. It was a shame when the Tğᴇ prison incident happened. But there's not really much you can do to that until you have a very effective prison service, prison security service, so to say. And that comes by isolating the prison itself. As long as that prison is still in Tğᴇ, which is just within the parameters of Abuja, there will always be attacks because it's actually not as difficult as people make it sound to attack a prison like Tğᴇ, which is within the vicinity of people. That's what I said, that if the prison was isolated, by the time they are coming to the prison, which is somewhere in the bush or in the mountain or something, the prison security people will see you with their cameras. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They will see you with drones and they can act for intervention. But when it's within the city, when there are even army markets there near it, I mean, women who are cooking food near it, you don't know who is giving information. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't know how they are collecting information. So there is a thing that if we start this program, we will be here till Christmas. Because the issues bothering our prison service, correctional service, are still the issues bothering our society. It is just an extension of the problems we have where, palliatives have been hidden. People are hiding palliatives now instead of giving it to citizens.
They will have branches for election.
Exactly. Why are you not expecting the prison warden to do the same? He's just a Nigerian like you and I. He's not different. He didn't come from any other planet. So it is less the process, the problem, but more the personnel, so to say. Let me put it that way.
Well, jailbreaks are a recurrent incident in the country, sadly. But still speaking on protocols, what is the recapturing protocol following a jailbreak? It has happened, all right, Alex, we can't help it. But after it has happened, although, you mentioned in passing that, yes, when you bring in inmates, you take their biometrics, of which we still have a lot to do when it comes to data collection, data retention in the country, because I don't see why I have given you all my information with my NIN, and then I'm trying to register for something else. You're practically asking me where my placenta was buried. You're supposed to have this information already. So if we translate this to even data collection within the prison system, what is the right thing to do? What is the next line of action after a jailbreak has occurred? What is the recapturing protocol?
Okay, so let's use the Tğᴇ again. Once those prisoners were now taken out, their names were transferred to all the police stations across the country. That's the first thing that happens immediately, because we have their names, even their pictures. And then the Ministry of Interior takes over from there and communicates to all the border. We have a lot of land borders and air borders as well, even sea borders. So all these things are communicated. We are actually pretty much good in that, I must confess. We are not as bad as people think we are in that sense of transmission of information. So the information is transmitted very quickly. The civil defense takes charge of that as well, just like the police. But the civil defense are very equipped because they are actually in checkpoint and all that. That's why the civil defense is very useful in this. They work hand in hand with the correctional service. So the information goes out there to all the services. So the government offices get it as well, states get it, ministries get it, Abuja, state governments are informed. What now happens is that we don't have enough manpower to actually pursue these people. We don't have enough manpower. So while I have the information of who I'm looking for, I don't have enough people to go and do a search and control. Because we know his area. Let's say the person comes from Kafantan. We know that most likely historically prisoners tend to go back to where they know people. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but the prisoner originated from. That's where he has people he can trust. We know that, but we don't have enough people. We don't have enough policemen already, Sage. What are you telling me? We don't have enough policemen already. So how can we detach 2 or 3 policemen to just go and find one SAP? I mean, and we have over 7,000 of them. I mean, that's going to take our whole police force. We don't have any policemen on the road anymore because we'll be looking for ex-bandits and whatever. So we are coming back to manpower. Now, what happens next is also that by the time by then the commission is on the border, these people now go back to that same corruption and change their NIN, go and get a fake biometric. These prisoners, they know. So they pay for some of it because we have unscrupulous Nigeria. We do have. I mean, we have to confess, Nigerians are part of our own problem. So you get people that are ready to sell their identity. The guy now crosses over to Niger Republic. Once he goes to Niger Republic, it's over. Niger Republic with 1,500 kilometers of border. So you and I cannot control it. The guy crosses over. He's over in Niger Republic, and that's the end of the story. Until he comes back to Nigeria, whenever he comes back, if he comes back. I'm just giving you one example, one route. There's the other route of Cameroon as well, in the south. There's Benin Republic in the south. So I'm just telling you how difficult it is for our correctional service to do anything about that. The processes are there. We cannot pause the process. Like I said, there is a whole system championed by the Interior Ministry to make sure that the information is out there. So if you go to our border patrol now and you ask if you have a particular prisoner's name, if you ask, we'll bring out the picture for you. In fact, I think online you'll be able to see some of the escapees of Tğğᴇ. So it's not a hidden, the processes are there. The thing is, who is pursuing that person? You know, in US, they have all these rangers, they have all these sheriffs, they have all these people that actually target prisoners. We don't have that in Nigeria. We don't have that. So the process is there, but nobody is affecting it. Just like the Act 2019 is there, the legislation is there, and nobody is going to do anything about it because we don't have enough men, we don't have enough men and women trained to pursue ex-convicts. It's a particular kind of job. It's not the same policing. It's a particular kind of investigation which has to be done. You go back to his community, you go back to his family, you ask questions, you follow the credit card if he has a credit card, you follow the bank account, you follow his spending, you follow his former friends. You know what I mean? You follow his former friends who are not convicted, but you follow them to find out if they get a call. You do online, like tracking in terms of phone calls.
Digital footprint.
So those things we cannot do. I'm sorry to disappoint Nigerians today, but we don't have the money, or do we have the equipment, nor do we have the manpower to do it as we speak. I'm not saying tomorrow will not be able to do it, but as we speak today, the 1st of May, we don't have that sufficiently.
Alex, let's talk about handling recaptured inmates. I get it that unfortunately, like 7,000 escapees at this moment that we've not been able to recapture, but we have been able to capture a few. Like I said, for the Suleja, I think 19 of them have been recaptured. How do we handle recaptured inmates? Because mind you, Alex, they've seen outside. They know where to go through. They know the hidden road at the back of the prison. They've probably even interacted with a few people. They've probably exchanged contacts with, like you said, the woman selling food at the junction who probably is going to help them on their next attempt. So when you've been able to successfully recapture a number of escapees, what do you do? How do you handle them such that they don't pass this information to those who are inside, and then they use the information they've been able to gather to re-strategize and maybe even try to escape a second time?
Oh, you can't really do more than you're doing. Okay, what happens, the simplest thing we do is that somebody who was in a medium security prison, say in a Euro first class, you understand, if you were in a normal economy, you've been upgraded to first class. But it just means that everything you are doing will cost you more. So for him to get more information or to get a corrupt order, he will pay more. That's what's happening. It's not as if he is safer or a more secure hand than before. Unfortunately, we cannot do more than that because the prisoner is coming back. You've captured him. He has spent 6 months out running up and down Nigeria, and you finally catch him and bring him back. He has gotten all the information that he needs for the next attempt. So all we are doing is to make sure we can protect the prisoners inside there and those outside enough for him to serve his term. Generally, he gets condemned for a longer term. So if he was supposed to serve 2 years, the fact that he broke out of the jail might add another 1.5 years to the term. It doesn't help him anyway because his mind is on bail out again. You understand what I'm saying? So you're even creating, how would I say this? You're creating a worse mindset for the criminal. He has already given up on the fact that he wants to serve his term there. So he wants to. Now, you must understand, particularly, most of those who try to escape are not even those who are on long jail terms. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
When people are condemned to 20 years, they over time end up accepting it. Those who cannot stay in prison for long are those who are condemned short term. They've never been in prison before. They have 3 years. They have 3 years condition. They've spent 6 months, and they think, "What the hell is this? What am I doing here?" And they know they can raise up a gang, pay them, and get themselves released. What happened at Tğğᴇ was ex-bandits. Most of them were terrorists. They have not spent any